Hello mga abe! Welcome to my channel. Ako po ang inyong lingkod, Kuya JDL. At totoo nga po, dahil Marso na, umiinit na po ang panahon dito sa Ontario or sa Canada. Ngayon, ang content natin ay isa po sa mga pinupuntahan ng mga Ontarians o ng mga Canadian. Pagsasapit po ang March o pansimula na po ng spring o tagsibol. Yan po ay ang pagbisita sa mga farm na nag-o-offer ng maple syrup. Alam niyo po mga abe, ang maple syrup industry ay isa sa mga may pinakamalaking industry dito sa Toronto. Tinataya po na 60 million kilo ang export nito taon-taon. Kaya nga po ang Canada ang isa sa major player pagdating sa maple syrup. Isa na po dito ang province ng Ontario at ang pinakamalaki po ay ang probinsya ng Quebec. Kaya po mga abe, yung mga ibang farm dito sa Ontario, yan po ang ikinabubuhay. Pag gagawa po sila ng mga tinatawag na Maple Syrup Festival. At ito pong ang napuntahan po natin ngayon ay 45 minutes away dito sa Toronto. Yan po ay walang iba kundi ang Brooks Farm na matatagpuan sa Uxbridge, Ontario. Ang ipakikita ko po ngayon sa content natin ay yung Maple Syrup tour na ginagawa po yan every for start ng 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m. hanggang alas 5 ng hapon. For further details, i-check nyo na lang po ang Brooks Farm sa Google at ibibigay po nila yung detalye sa inyo. Ngayon po, ang ipakikita ko yung tour na ginawa sa amin at tsak po na may matututunan kayo. Ngunit, bago po natin umpisahan ng tour na yan, inaanyayahan ko po muna kayong mag-subscribe sa ating channel kung hindi pa po kayo nakaka-subscribe para po updated kayo sa mga ina-upload nating videos kagaya ng mga pamumuhay natin dito sa Toronto, Canada, mga events dito sa Toronto, Canada, at yung ating mga travel at ang mga content regarding sa popular na kultura. Kaya po, Kuya JDL, libre naman po ang pag-subscribe. At kung mapupunta rin po kayo sa Facebook, meron din po tayong Facebook page na Kuya JDL. Sige po, magkwentuhan na po tayo.
You guys probably noticed there are no buckets around this sugar bush. Some of you maybe have done a tour before. You're used to seeing those buckets all attached to the trees. That is a way of collecting sap. It is an older way of collecting sap, and it's mostly done on small properties, small farms. It's not what large-scale operations do today. I'll actually show you this bucket over here. This is an example. So when we're tapping a tree, we don't want to abuse the tree. It is a living thing. We have to wait for it to be around 40 years old to start tapping it. That's when it's mature enough to start producing sap for us. Roughly, we can tell that it's mature enough by hugging it, just like so. And if you can at least touch your elbow, it's wide enough to take at least one tap. A tree, they range in size depending on how old they are, and you can get up to 4 taps in a tree to collect more sap. You never want to tap in the same spot twice. Every year, so like you can see a hole here, for example, from previous year of tapping. What we do is just go up maybe a half a foot, another half a foot to the left or right, tap in a new spot, give that around 5 or so years to heal over, and then we can tap in the same spot again. I always relate it to like donating blood. You can't donate too much blood, otherwise you die. Yes.
How much syrup does one tree give every year?
Sap, it does produce sap roughly around 40 liters. 4 liters. Yeah, we call it sap, and then eventually it turns into maple syrup. Yeah, so this guy, he could probably only take 1 or 2. I don't know how many's on him right now. 1, and then this guy's connected. Again, it's frozen right now, so there's no sap. So this is what would be attached. You could get these at like a Home Depot, any hardware store, if you know you have sugar maples on your property. How you can tell if you have sugar maples depends on the leaves, the maple seeds, and the bark of your tree. The lid helps keep out insects. Everything is attracted to that sugar for the nutrients, right? There's a spile attached to the hook that leads the sap into the pail. The reason why the pail is shaped like this is so that when the sap does freeze on the days that it doesn't burst the seams out. When water freezes, it expands. So with this design, it raises up and doesn't break the seams. That way we don't lose our sap. If you turn around, follow me over here, I'll show you. This is how most large-scale Quebec maple syrup farms collect their syrup today. All these blue tubes around us, they are essentially vacuum hoses that are all interconnected to one large holding tank. We'll show you that just at the end. That's where all of our sap from all these trees are collected. It really takes out the manual labor of collecting sap. Otherwise, you'd have kids running with buckets to a holding tank, and it would take all day. Really patriotic statistics. 85% of the world's maple syrup is produced out of Canada. Woohoo for us. Of that 85%, 90% is done out of the province of Quebec, with the other 10% being made up from us in Ontario, as well as some of the maritime provinces. As for the rest of the world, it's mostly the northern states like Vermont and Maine.
Don't talk about them anymore though, do we?
No. It's all us, all us. They don't do none of it. Another Canadian flag. Some European countries also do, just because they have a similar climate, similar soil, just with the same but same climate. The reason why Quebec produces so much more than us is largely due to temperature. The trees can pump out a lot more sap than ours, and development. Ontario's a lot more developed, and they have a lot more forestry. Very simple. But yeah, besides that, maple syrup, mostly from us. Woohoo! And that's the real stuff, not that fake. Not that fake. The difference between amber maple syrup, light maple syrup, or dark grades of maple syrup, how this grade classification comes with the different lights is based off of two things. One, it is when we extract the sap in the season, and the second is how long we evaporate it in our evaporator. The earlier on in the season, the lighter the grade will be. In this prime 4 to 6 week period, that's when the sap's running the fastest. That is when we get our amber grade. That's what we're all familiar with. And then at the end, the dark, robust maple syrup, it's when the sap is flowing very slowly, right before it makes its way up the trees to bud the leaves. That's when we get our more robust, dark flavor. That's great for baking, great for flavoring tea and coffee. It is a little less sweet. It is a bit more, I don't want to say bitter, but almost has a molassesy taste. And yeah, it depends on your preference. One isn't necessarily better than the other. Everyone generally prefers amber, but yeah, if you guys want to try some, we don't have any dark at the moment, it's not being produced yet, but later on in the season, if you visit our market, there are beehives protected by an electric fence. We have that because we do get a lot of black bears around here, and generally a lot of predators that want to get into it to collect that honey. It's the same with the insects in the maple syrup. They want to get to that nutrients and that sweet goodness. Just be careful, don't touch the fence. You know.
I wanted to just done it before.
Oh, best way to learn. Now the bees aren't out right now because they're still hibernating. It's freezing cold. I'm sure some of you are questioning being out here today. They will come out though, and their purpose for being here is to pollinate the forest. That helps keep the trees healthy. It helps us, we need them for our crops, we need them for our trees, we need them for everything. A lot of species are endangered. We do prioritize the honeybee because they're the most efficient in making honey, but a lot of native species are endangered, so if you see a bee, don't squish it. Even some wasps help pollinate, but yeah, we need them. So this was a huge moment in Canadian history. You guys may have heard about it. There was actually a little fictionalized drama that was just released on Amazon Prime called The Sticky. And this is essentially going over the Great Maple Syrup Heist of Canada in 2011 back in Quebec. There was around 18 arrests, including the entire heist, but there were 3 main leads infiltrating these federal reserves in Quebec, where they keep maple syrup stocked up to stabilize the market in case some years are slower, some years they have more. Essentially, this warehouse was unguarded with unmarked white barrels, and they had inside guys going in, siphoning out the maple syrup, filling the barrels back up with water, and selling the maple syrup on the black market. It says 18 million, but it was roughly around 22 million now estimated of maple syrup that they stole and redistributed. Now down there, they are part of a federation called the FPAC. I can't tell you the acronyms, I forget them. And that is essentially, it's an organization that helps stabilize larger farmers from smaller farmers so that monopolies don't form with maple syrup production. And there's a controversy around it with the free trade versus the quotas that they have to give. We won't get into that, but this is a very interesting story if you ever want to look it up. It was a huge news at the time. Biggest theft ever to happen in the province of Quebec. And yeah, just kind of something to be proud about. Yeah. You think it'd be gold in a bank, but it's a different type of gold. But if you do want to look up the story, there is a fictionalized drama surrounding it that, like I mentioned, just released on Prime last year, called The Sticky. But then if you have Netflix, there's also a documentary, it's called Dirty Money, and I think it's the first episode, and that goes over it objectively. You know. Now, on a day when the sap is thawed and running, we would get what we call a sap run about every minute, a pressurized gush of water that comes through that tank. So right now it just looks like frozen water because at this point sap mostly is just water. Again, we still have to evaporate it to get to that 66% sugar content. Now on a day when it's thawed and we are ready to process it into maple syrup, it goes through this black hose into our reservoir holding tanks above, which eventually connect to our evaporator, right through here. Now again, it's not on right now, but I'll just show you guys quickly what we do. So this is a wood burning evaporator. We have a ton of chopped wood. Yeah, do some more push-ups. Take from here, we put it underneath, and that helps boil the maple syrup. It would start in these two pans here, and it would eventually finish once it got down to the nice thickness. We have a gauge to make sure when it is ready. After that, we push it through this filter press. Ooh, I don't have an example right here, but what would be through this is a series of filters that almost look like coffee filters. That helps collect all that sugar sand and the impurities that didn't boil through. So eventually it would go into our bottler here. We keep it really hot and we would bottle the maple syrup fresh and hot. The reason why we do it hot is to help with sealing the bottle. It also sanitizes the bottle if there's anything else left. Put the cap on, throw the label on it, let it cool, and that is ready for the shelf. It's ready for consumers. There's no added preservatives, no added sugars. It's just straight sap from the tree produced in maple syrup.
Does that Sasquatch count?
No. No.
Alright, 14. That's my fun.
Thank you guys for stuck through it. I know it's a little chilly today. Take a sample of maple syrup. You got Sasquatches. You got 14. Any other numbers?
12.
Any other numbers? It's 10.
10?
It's a solid 10. It was 13 last year.
Kamusta? Tamis?
Thank you for playing.
Ako naman.
You get a second. Participation award.
Matabang.
Alright guys. And when you're ready, the fires are just out.
Okay mga abe, maraming salamat po sa pagsama sa amin ni Mrs. JDL sa content na ito. After pala nun, kung kayo po ay pupunta sa Brooks Farm, pagkatapos po ng tour na yon, kukunin kayo ng wagon uli at ibabalik kayo doon sa front kung saan kayo bumili ng ticket. At pwede rin pala kayong bumili online. So sabi ko nga po sa inyo, i-check nyo na lang yan sa kanilang website or i-google nyo po yan. At marami po kayong pagpipili ang mga farm. Actually, dalawa po yung naka-ready ko na farm this season. Ito pong Brooks Farm, tsaka yung abangan nyo po yung susunod. At pagkatapos po nun, pwede kayong bumili ng mga sample maple syrup nila. At marami pang iba. Meron kayong mga bacon na mabibili doon, mga jam, mga farm-made honey na talaga pong magugustuhan po ninyo. So mga abe, muli po, marami pong salamat. Bago tayo magpaalam, nais ko po muna magpasalamat sa ating mga kaabe, kahugot at ka-dear Kuya JDL sa bumubuo po ng ating community. Maraming salamat po sa inyo na patuloy na nagtataguyod ng ating channel. Bagamat ako po hindi na nakakapag-live, nandyan pa rin po kayo. Maraming salamat sa mga taga-Toronto po na nandito nanonood. Thank you po sa inyo. Kung di man kayo makapag-comment dyan, magpakilala po kayo dyan, mag-hi po kayo dyan sa comment section. At huwag po kayong mag-alala, pagbubutihin po natin ang ating mga content na maaaring makatulong sa inyong pamumuhay at makapag-entertain at makapagbigay ng inspirasyon sa inyong lahat. So muli po, marami pong salamat. Best regards, Kuya JDL. Bye-bye!